Coming up in this episode of Southern Newsweek, a young man pogos to the top of the world's steepest street for charity, a Fiordland island is being cleared of predators to create a new home for the kakapo, and this year's Crank Up features the usual displays of vintage machinery. Hello, I'm Melissa Barton. An 11-year-old boy has pogo-sticked his way to the top of the world's steepest street and into the history books. Harry Willis reached the top of Baldwin Street in Dunedin, raising thousands of dollars for charity. Rosella Bone has more.
For even the most casual of pedestrians, reaching the top of Dunedin's Baldwin Street is a tall order. So when Harry Willis first said he was going to pogo to the top to raise money for Ronald McDonald House, his family and friends thought he was a little crazy.
Yeah, this is craziness, isn't it? Kid. Lots of lollies.
He's a kid.
Lots of sugar.
He's a kid, yeah.
I'm Rosella Bone, here with charity pogo sticker Harry Willis, who's about to begin his ascent to the top of the world's steepest street. Harry made the attempt today in a final push to raise funds for Ronald McDonald House, where he and his family stayed while his 4-year-old sister Darcy was being treated for cancer last year. Harry made a strong start and, despite a media scrum around him, stayed focused throughout. He says his headphones were his secret weapon to block out distractions.
My dad has been just telling me focus on the line, so because I had music in my ears, so I ignored everyone and just kept on going.
Within 15 minutes he'd reached the summit amid celebrations of friends and family and many onlookers.
They were cheering me on and just shouting my name and stuff.
He's awesome. So proud of him.
Could you do this?
No,
Gonna try it?
probably not.
Harry's family considered the effort all the more special because of the arrival of Harry's new baby brother this month.
He's just been so welcomed and the kids just absolutely adore him and already couldn't imagine life without him, and I think he's been really healing for our whole family actually. You know that they're in remission, but you never like to get too far ahead of yourself, because when you've been thrown a curveball like that in your life, you know that anything can happen.
To date, Harry has raised almost $7,000 for Ronald McDonald House. What's your next move now?
I don't know, maybe cross country up North Road on the pogo stick.
Rosella Bone, The South Today.
Volunteers in Oamaru learned all about gardening and permaculture in an area next door to the town's public gardens. The South Today took a look.
Just up the road from Oamaru's public gardens, with its duck ponds and rose garden, is a serious endeavour into the realm of permaculture. Just planted 6 months ago, this part of the Waitaki Community Gardens is already taking shape, thanks to the hard work of the volunteers. Based on the idea of mimicking natural ecosystems, the plan is to eventually create a food forest with different foods and fruits at different layers. Variety is the key in their choice of plants, as Waitaki Community Gardens site coordinator Rama Crosty explained.
Just all your standard things. We try and experiment too, so we grow, vaguely interesting things like kohlrabis and lots of different sorts of, onions and lots of, like purple broccolis and orange cauliflowers and polka dot cabbages. No, kidding.
Further down the hill features more conventional gardening practices. The aims of these gardens is to help the public develop skills towards the creation of self-reliant communities. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
There is hope New Zealand's endangered native bird, the kakapo, could return to its original breeding sites on Cooper Island and Fiordland's Dusky Sound. The 18 square kilometre island is being cleared of predators as part of the Cooper Island Restoration Project. Mina Amsa reports.
Real Journeys nature guide and trap checker Richard Parkinson gets off the dinghy to Cooper Island and checks an array of traps set for stoats and rats.
Oh, we're just replacing the bait, which is eggs and a bit of meat, and if there's any stoats or rats in there, we'll clear those out as well.
The project began in May last year, involved installing almost 200 stoat traps across the coastal part of the island. They have caught 24 stoats and 29 rats so far. The Department of Conservation's Tiano Biodiversity Ranger, Lindsay Wilson, says Cooper Island is significant. It's the only island in Dusky Sound known to have had kakapo breeding on it, and still has rimu fruit the kakapo would have depended on.
These islands can become like lifeboats for some of these really rare and threatened species that we can then hopefully get back onto the mainland later on. So yeah, it's I think, in terms of the whole predator-free New Zealand concept, it's a really important place as a stepping stone, going from small islands to big islands, peninsulas, mainland.
We spend a lot of the months each year down here, and we deal a lot with the history and a lot with the wildlife. So to be involved with that grassroots level of trying to bring some of these rare birds back, it's really special.
The project is a partnership between the Department of Conservation and Southern tourism operator Real Journeys. Real Journeys Chief Executive Richard Lauder says it will take at least 4 years to get predators under control, a $500,000 commitment on Real Journeys' part.
We'd love to see kakapo back here, and that takes a bit of effort, and we think we can achieve it, and that's what we're setting out to do.
The Department of Conservation has identified the best route for the next 200 traps on the inland part of the island, and 1,000 rat traps will be put in place across the whole island over the next 2 years. Mina Amso, The South Today.
This year's school summer holidays came to a close as the South continued to be bathed in sunshine. One of the holiday program organisations took its flock to Brighton for a beach day and MasterChef final.
These budding master chefs from across Dunedin's Magic Holiday Centres are competing for prizes. Regan and Sarah, who go to the Green Island group, explain how they made lemon meringue pie.
First we did the bottom part, which is this brown part, the biscuits. We left those in the fridge for an hour. Then we went back and then we made the top part, and we had to leave that in the fridge for 4 to 6 hours.
However, for them and some others, it was all about friendship and eating Dairy Whip straight from the can. Business manager of Magic Holiday Programs, Bridget Beckingham, says it was a fun way to spend the day.
We're having a beach day and the finals of MasterChef Day. So for the last 2 weeks, all the centres have been doing bake-off and cook-off competitions to get their final 2 kids at each centre. And they brought all the food here and cooked a dish of their choice for the finals. So we had 5 groups, 10 children in the kitchen making all those delicious little meals and cakes and nachos.
As with all competitions, there were winners and those who competed. Third prize went to Tahuna for their nachos and Middle Eastern dish. Second went to Wakari for their caramelised banana kebabs. And winners of the inaugural Magic Holiday Program Master Chefs competition were Fairfield, who made a fantastic cake based on a holiday scene, complete with a jelly pool, which was popular with many. While these youngsters were simply enjoying the day.
Because we're going to go to the beach and I like it there. We're not on the sand.
You need to go toilet, come on mate.
Everybody else, sit down! We like going to the beach and playing with the sand and making sand castles.
This was one of the organisation's larger events of the summer holiday. And Bridget Beckingham says there's a winter equivalent which is just as much fun. Many kids will surely be pleased to know that school starts on Monday or Tuesday next week. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The 31st annual Crank Up event was held in Edendale, north of Invercargill last weekend. Hosted by the Vintage Machinery Club, Crank Up is a family-orientated weekend which highlights the joys of rural life. Sharon Rees was there.
Despite the dark clouds overhead Edendale on Sunday, the rain held off for thousands of people attending the 31st annual Crank Up weekend. Crowds lined the main arena early in the day for the military parade, before the big guns came out for a war reenactment. Vintage machinery was on display, as well as different kinds of tractors and vehicles of all ages. The same quirkiness found indoors at the local stalls spilled outside as the Southern Society of Steamologists dressed the part alongside their handmade props. Organisers said the event was another huge success, with around 8,000 people through the gates over the weekend. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the historic Dunedin Courthouse is reopened by visiting dignitaries, and Invercargill volunteers give the CBD a spruce up. Thanks for staying with us. The Dunedin Law Courts reopened last Friday after a $20 million refurbishment. But as Roselle LeBone found out, the building is still not quite finished.
The Dunedin Courthouse reopened this morning 6 years after it was closed in 2011 due to earthquake risks. At the press conference today, it was confirmed not all work has yet been completed. Paving of the garden is yet to be completed by contractors AVL Construction. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern got a bagpipe welcome as she arrived to officially open the newly renovated courthouse. The building was originally opened in 1902. Ardern thanked the legal fraternity and the media for joining the fight to save the building.
And I'm sure it made a difference. Alongside the legal fraternity here, a group of lawyers who are vehement about the need to return this building, I acknowledge your advocacy and the difference that it made.
With Southern MP Claire Curran, she also sealed off a time capsule with contents including a miniature flag and a bottle of Ardern's birthday whisky, a gift from partner Clark Gayford, to be buried at the courthouse and opened in 50 years' time. Ardern discussed completing work the previous government began.
Absolutely acknowledge that. I remember many an occasion at Select Committee badgering the Minister about this building. Then I had both the role of heritage and also justice, and I saw both the merits of needing to restore this building but also the strength of feeling in the community.
Health Minister David Clark confirmed today that the government was still on track to break ground at the Dunedin Hospital by 2020.
There are sites being worked on right now. Pete Hodson locally is leading that team. He would be the person to talk to about this stage of progress, but he's indicated to me that he hopes to have a site of preference notified publicly by the end of March.
Even I think the fact that that appointment has been made shows our determination to get on with things as well.
Ardern stayed mum on her baby's gender, but addressed the TPP, Donald Trump, and one British tabloid's suggestion she couldn't juggle motherhood and the top job.
Yeah, well, I'm just pregnant, not incapacitated.
A procession of legal professionals made their way through town to the courthouse before a special sitting of the High Court this afternoon. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
The Dunedin Community Salmon Hatchery in Sawyers Bay was struck by vandals again, this time resulting in the death of around 180 salmon. The South Today found out more.
Following about a year of minor vandalism, Sawyers Bay's volunteer-run salmon hatchery had its worst attack by vandals last weekend. This here is the last of about 180 dead salmon following the attack. Dunedin Community Salmon Trust Chairman Steve Bennett says the intruders must have climbed a barbed wire fence and then starved the fish of oxygen.
We've narrowed it down to Sunday night, I think it was. Somebody came in and in this tank behind me here, they turned off the aerator. You'll see there's bubbles around the edge of the tank, and that keeps oxygen in the water that keeps the fish alive.
The Salmon Trust is a not-for-profit organisation that releases salmon into Otago Harbour for keen fishermen to catch. The fish killed over the weekend were 3-year-old adults intended to provide eggs for next year's release.
They were our brood stock, so they were 3-year-old fish that we were going to use to strip the eggs off, and the eggs would then create our next year's batch of smolt that we rear for release.
The Trust's volunteers are dismayed at the harm that the vandals have caused.
We have the police involved now, so the police are going to be looking into it for us. Ultimately, we just want the damage to stop. I mean, we're a not-for-profit organisation that does this out of the kindness of our hearts, if you like. And there's actually no benefit from anyone, for anyone, from people killing all these fish. It's a mindless act of stupidity, and we just want it to stop.
The public are being asked to report any suspicious behaviour they see around the Sawyers Bay hatchery, especially after hours and late at night. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Over 100 Invercargill residents rolled their sleeves up to clean, paint and polish the city centre last weekend. Rev Up, organised by the Invercargill City Council, saw business owners, council members and volunteers hit the streets for the spruce up. Sharon Rees has more.
The Invercargill Troopers Memorial was one of the first things to get a spruce up over the weekend, as volunteers did their part to clean the inner city. Council City Centre Coordinator Kari Graber said with some big events coming to Invercargill, the first Rev Up could help to paint the city in a new light.
I want people, when they come here for things like Burt Monroe or to visit family and things, to view Invercargill as a place that they actually want to live. So we are a great livable city. It's time for us to let the rest of the world know and really build that population and thrive.
Teams of volunteers swept verandas and sidewalks, weeded gardens and painted rubbish bins. Southland artists also donated their time over the weekend, filling empty shop windows such as this one behind me, with original designs to help the place look busy and vibrant. Graber said the two-day working bee quickly transformed the CBD, much to the delight of business owners.
The people who are coming out to volunteer are just putting in so much effort, and what's really cool is some of them are taking before and after shots of the work they've done, and the difference is amazing. Colors are coming back, we've got artists out doing windows, we've got people painting up trash bins, and the spirit and the excitement even from the retailers and the businesses has been fantastic.
And while water restrictions which came into effect on Sunday meant any water blasting was off the cards, volunteers armed themselves with a bucket and cloth to begin prep work for the more difficult tasks. Graber said when the restrictions eased, they would have the help of the Invercargill Fire Service to finish the job. She said the success of the weekend would most likely see a repeat in the near future. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
Dunedin continued to showcase its diversity of culture, with the local Filipino community celebrating their Catholic Sinulog Festival. Attendees of last Sunday's Mass at the St Patrick's Basilica in South Dunedin were treated to a Filipino procession. The celebrations were to honour the Santo Niño, which is a religious relic icon of Jesus as a child. The Sinulog Festival traditionally includes contingents dressed in bright coloured costumes, dancing gracefully to the rhythm of drums, trumpet and native gongs. And Hokitika held its annual Driftwood and Sand Festival last weekend, with hundreds out enjoying the weather. The South Today took a look.
Crowds enjoyed the 16th annual Driftwood and Sand Festival near Hokitika over the weekend. Along with a number of alternative entertainers on hand, there were 50 intriguing sculptures represented along the beach, some even interactive. The quality of the works meant that judges had a hard time deciding on the winners of the various categories. In the end, Jason Thompson's leopard made out of gorsewood won the Public Choice Award, and supreme winner was Rob Shaw's The Castaway. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Coming up after the break, a swarm of sputtering surreys make their way to Brighton Beach, and we meet the man who stokes the boilers on the steamship Earnslaw. Welcome back. The 64th annual Dunedin to Brighton car rally went off without a hitch. Over 30 cars, some more than 100 years old, set off from the Octagon heading for Brighton, 17 kilometres away. Daryl Baser checked out those magnificent people and their motorised machines.
Stately cars and motorcycles were lined up in the Octagon, ahead of the Dunedin to Brighton Vintage and Veteran Car Rally. Before they were waved away by Mayor Dave Cull and expertly described by broadcasting legend Dougal Stevenson, many vehicles drew curious questions from fans, particularly this 1905 motorcycle. Its owner, Dave Hastings, explains how he rebuilt the pedal-assisted bike from a collection of parts.
Sort of over a year and a half, tinkering around and talking to people and finding out what's supposed to be where and how they, because a lot of these things, this one I don't know what it had been used for, but a lot of them have been used for other things. Anybody had an engine that got used for all sorts of stuff. So yeah, a little while just sort of sorting out what to do and how to do it, and all part of the fun.
It's the bike's second Dunedin to Brighton run, and it got going after a little help from some friends. While this beautifully restored piece of working art once belonged to Ollie Latham, who received it as a gift when he was a teacher in the Ida Valley.
For garage one day and we were talking old cars, and the garage owner said, "There's one out the back you can have." And I said, "Where?" He says, "I'll go out that door and you'll see it in the gooseberry patch." So I did, and there was one huge wheel sticking out of the gooseberries, and I thought, my word. So I dashed back inside and I said, "I'll buy it." He says, "No, you can have it." So I rushed down the road and borrowed the tractor and took it home before he changed his mind.
He sold the vehicle a few years back, but its current owner invited him to be in the rally, as Ollie Latham is celebrating a significant birthday shortly. Keith Moore of the Otago Vintage Car Club says this event is one of the oldest veteran car rallies in the Southern Hemisphere. And he outlines the difference between vintage, veteran and other cars.
Up to 1919 is veteran, then from 1919 right up to about in the early 30s is the vintage, and then you've got post-vintage and so on and so forth.
For some, it was a case of everyone and the dog in the car. Two of the vehicles in the field of 36 had to retire hurt, but Moore says it was another successful run. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Funds are being raised to buy the historic courthouse in Lawrence and restore it as a community centre. The South Today found out more.
The old courthouse in Lawrence has a very good reason to look a little bit tired, having been built in 1875, only 15 years after Gabriel Reed's gold rush in the nearby area. The Lawrence Heritage Trust are fundraising to purchase the building, and according to Chairman Roger Cotton, they are nearly halfway to their target.
We're trying to raise $50,000, and we've got two other funding applications pending, one with the local group and one with the organisation in Dunedin. So hopefully by the end of March, if we're successful, we should be in a position to sign a sales and purchase agreement.
The courthouse has had a varied past, including use as a Presbyterian Sunday school in the 1970s. It's intended the renovations will create a space for community groups to use. There already have been some private donations, and a trust has a Give a Little page to help achieve their goal. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
This summer's tourists enjoyed the long hot summer days as they cruised Lake Wakatipu aboard the old coal-fired TSS Earnslaw. But what are the stokers far below deck, feeding the boilers in temperatures approaching 50 degrees? Mena Amso went down for a look.
Cameron McKenzie stokes the boiler aboard the Earnslaw every 6 minutes during his shift, and not surprisingly, he says it gets hot and sweaty.
Yeah, we get about 30 to 50 degrees Celsius down here.
McKenzie has a fan to help keep his cool and a water hose nearby.
The air that we suck out from the fans is only the same temperature as what it is outside.
McKenzie enjoys the stoking job, one he says not many people get the chance to try.
Because it just saves on a gym membership, really. It's a good exercise, and yeah, no, that's why I enjoy about it. Every 6 minutes or so we'll put a stoke on. Yeah. We got the gauge as we watch a video of the smoke that comes out the funnel to judge when we have to do our next stoke.
Temperatures in Queenstown reached 31 degrees Celsius today. Mid-service meteorologist Kyle Lee told The South Today earlier this morning unofficial temperatures for January remain well above average until the end of the month, making it the hottest on record.
Still looking on track
The forecast temperatures for Queenstown for the next 3 days, which is the 29th, the 30th and the 31st, is a maximum of 31 degrees for today and for tomorrow, and then 27 for Wednesday.
However, Lee says a dramatic drop in temperatures is expected from Thursday this week.
When we are expecting a low pressure system to come in over the country and bring quite a strong southerly change over the south, which will be dropping temperatures for most of those sort of areas for Thursday and Friday.
Meanwhile, tourists in the resort are making the most of the heat. That idea of a cold one at the end of the shift is one that Mackenzie would be pretty stoked about. Nina Amso, The South Today.
A new initiative from the Otago Museum hopes to engage very young minds with scientific play. Kia Ruapua is a science playground for little kids with experiments with water, sound, touch and more. Daryl Baser got down with the kids.
This array of experiments on the lawn in front of the Otago Museum is aimed at children aged from 3 to 7 years old. Science communicator Claire Concannon says having the activities on the lawn for the weekend was a launch, as the equipment is set to travel shortly.
After this launch, the playground is going to travel to 4 preschool kindergarten partners that we have on the project. So it's a mobile playground designed to help little kids do scientific explorations, kind of inquiry-based, help them discover more about science.
Concannon says around 300 people explored the various apparatus over the 2 days. And she believes, as a generalisation, children are natural-born scientists.
Yeah, so if you have ever watched a kid kind of explore something new, you'll see them test different ways, and this is the same method that science follows. So we test a different way of doing something, and if that doesn't work, then we go back and test it again. So we use fancy words for the scientific method like prediction and hypothesis, but kids are doing this on a really basic level from very young.
The initiative is funded through the Curious Minds scheme and the Otago Museum. Claire Concannon says if people visit the museum's webpage, there are ideas in how parents and children can be scientists at home. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
And finally, the job of addressing and ceremonially cutting the haggis has been given to a woman for the first time in more than 150 years. The South Today attended the annual Robbie Burns dinner at Toitui Museum in Dunedin to find out more.
Before this glorious feast began, history was made in Dunedin as Donna Rutherford Young was the first woman to address the haggis in 157 years. She admits it was a momentous occasion.
Well, it was a super honour to be asked to do the address of the haggis. So I was thrilled to have the chance to do it this evening at the Burns Supper. So it was been a wonderful night.
However, Rutherford Young says the fact she's the first woman to have this role wasn't a big deal for her.
But generally it was an honour to be there and say the Bard's words, and on a women's perspective it was a small thing, but it was wonderful.
She grew up in Scotland and was raised with the words of Robbie Burns around the house, as her father was a fan of the Bard. Dunedin Burns Club President Royden Somerville says he couldn't be certain, but understands it was the first time a woman has addressed the haggis on a Burns night since the club formed in 1861. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
That's all from us this week. You can go online and check us out on Facebook, or you can keep up with the Southern News via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, and thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.